Look, I'd only come back for the right opportunity, working with the right people that are like-minded and want to win. I've got no interest in just taking part.
On July 8, 2025, Max Verstappen posted a message on social media that made headlines around the world. The words were warm, generous, and full of gratitude. "From my first race win to 4 world championships, we have shared incredible successes," he wrote. "Thank you for everything, Christian." Here is the part most people glossed over. 12 months before that post, during a scandal that threatened to tear the team apart, Verstappen had quietly intervened to protect Helmut Marko from being suspended. Marko was the man most reports would later credit with helping push Horner out. And when Marko himself received news that his 30-year run at Red Bull was ending, Verstappen missed the farewell dinner entirely. When Marko called him the next morning, his description of the conversation was this: "There was a certain melancholy in the air. These are two men who built the most dominant team in Formula One history, spent the final years of that dominance in a bitter internal war, and have both since found their way back into the sport." What most channels missed is not the feud itself. What they missed is what Max Verstappen actually lost when it happened. Red Bull Racing did not exist before 2005. The energy drinks company bought the Jaguar F1 team, and co-founders Dietrich Mateschitz and Helmut Marko needed someone to run the racing side, so they chose Christian Horner, a 31-year-old Englishman who had managed a junior Formula team but had never led an F1 operation at this level. Marko described the arrangement without ambiguity. Horner handled operations, Marko handled strategy, and the power, in Marko's own words, was always in Austria. Marko ran the driver program and shaped the team's identity alongside Mateschitz.
Look, I've done my shift, I think, and for me, if I were to come back, it would be in a slightly different role to the one that I performed the last, 21 years or so. So we'll see. I mean, the interest in the sport is sky high.
The alliance between Horner and Marko stretched back 27 years by the time it collapsed, and what nobody outside the team fully understood was how quietly the foundation had already begun to crack. In October 2022, Dietrich Mateschitz died, and with him went the single person who had balanced the team's competing interests. Control shifted toward Thai majority shareholder Chalerm Uvidya and toward corporate executive Oliver Mintzlaff, who ran Red Bull as CEO for corporate projects and investments. Marko's account of what followed, shared publicly in the Dutch newspaper De Limburger, contains a detail that reframes the entire story. At a party ahead of the 2022 Austrian Grand Prix, months before Mateschitz's death became public, Horner came up to Marko and said, "He won't make it to the end of the year." That same moment, according to Marko, was when Horner began drawing closer to Chalerm Uvidya, the shareholder who would hold the most power once the founder was gone. When Mateschitz passed away, Marko stated, "Horner did everything he could to take control of the company with Uvidya's support, and Marko spent that same period doing everything possible to prevent that on behalf of Austria." Two men, one shared mission, and a fault line running directly between them. The team kept winning through 2023, which meant the outside world saw only the trophies and missed the war underneath. Early 2024 brought allegations of inappropriate behavior toward a female employee directly to Horner's door. An internal investigation cleared him, and a subsequent appeal review upheld that finding, but the damage spread through the team fast, pulling the private power struggle into daily news cycles for the first time. And that's when Verstappen's role became impossible to ignore.
There's some fantastic people that want to invest in Formula One, but I'm in no rush. And look, if my career stops at the end of my time at Red Bull, I've had an incredible.
During the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend in 2024, BBC reporting indicated that Marko faced possible suspension from Red Bull amid the escalating tensions. Verstappen's personal backing of Marko proved to be the reason the advisor kept his position. The driver had gone to bat for his mentor against the man who ran the team around him. Jos Verstappen, Max's father, added another layer by publicly demanding Horner step down and warning the team would be torn apart if he stayed. Adrian Newey, the designer behind many of Red Bull's most dominant cars, departed the team during this same stretch of turmoil, though no party has officially confirmed the internal conflict as the sole reason. The result was a team with Verstappen winning races on Sunday, and its leadership structure actively fighting itself the rest of the week. Red Bull's statement on July 9, 2025, needed no interpretation. Christian Horner had been released from his operational duties as team principal and CEO of Red Bull Racing, effective immediately, 20 years of work and then gone, without a transition period or farewell. Laurent Mekies, who had been running sister team Racing Bulls after leaving Ferrari, stepped into the role as the new team principal and CEO, with Alain Permain moving across to take over at Racing Bulls. Oliver Mintzlaff addressed the decision directly. "We were 100% behind this decision. Because we knew we had to do something. You can't keep relying on history, and we felt it was time to turn the page." He acknowledged Horner's legacy in the same statement, calling his track record fantastic and his achievements significant. Verstappen posted his emotional tribute that same day, warm, careful, and pointed at nothing controversial. When media pressed him further, his answer stayed neutral. Management and the shareholders decided that they wanted a change. They run the team. I'm the driver, so whatever they decide, it's fully in their right to do what they want. He thanked Horner in public and said nothing he hadn't already decided was safe to say. The official separation took until September 22, 2025, because Horner's contract ran until 2030 and carried a total reported value of over £100 million. Sky Sports F1 reported that he accepted a settlement in the region of £75 million, less than his contract entitled him to, specifically because the terms allowed him to return to Formula One as early as the summer of 2026. Sky Sports correspondent Craig Slater noted that the leaking of that detail left little doubt Horner intended to use it. According to ESPN, Horner told sources he does not simply want to repeat his former role as a pure employee. The ambition this time is co-ownership, a stake in a team that would make another sudden dismissal structurally much harder to engineer.
And look, Formula One's about pushing the boundaries. It's about how you interpret regulations. Always has been and always will be. Teams that are the most conservative are the teams that are never at the front of the grid. You've got to be pushing the envelope. And of course, it's all about how you interpret regulations and engineers, some of the brightest engineers on the planet.
Links to Alpine and Aston Martin surfaced through late 2025, with Alpine publicly confirming in January 2026 that Horner and a consortium of investors were among parties considering buying a stake. One German report captured the stated motivation directly. Horner reportedly wants to show Red Bull it was a mistake to fire him. Red Bull confirmed on December 8th and 9th, 2025, that Marko would step down as motorsport advisor at the end of the season, days after Verstappen lost the 2025 driver's title to McLaren's Lando Norris, ending 4 consecutive championships. After 20 years inside Red Bull's power structure, the man who co-built the team was officially done. The dinner at which the decision was finalized between Marko and Mintzlaff took place without Verstappen present due to a flight problem. Marko called him the next morning and described that conversation this way. "It wasn't a normal conversation. There was a certain melancholy in the air." Verstappen told Marko he had never imagined achieving the kind of success they had built together. The public version arrived through De Limburger, where Marko described the internal war with precision. Those final years with Horner were not pleasant. Dirty games were being played. He accused Horner's camp of fabricating claims about disparaging remarks Marko supposedly made about Mexican drivers, denied the comments ever happened, and stated that Horner had tried to use those fabricated quotes to engineer Marko's suspension. "I never said that, but Horner wanted to use it to have me suspended." On Horner's honesty overall, Marko told the outlet they had been able to demonstrate that Horner was lying about everything and anything.
Look, Oscar will have learned a huge amount from last year. I thought he was odds-on favourite going into the summer break, and unfortunately it sort of fell apart for him.
And that once Uvidya understood this, his support for Horner shifted. 6 weeks after Marko's interviews, Netflix delivered Horner's response through a new season of Drive to Survive. His account differed from Marko's at nearly every point. On who made the call to fire him, "I think this was a decision made by Oliver Mintzlaff, with Helmut Marko advising from the sidelines. After Dietrich Mateschitz's death, I was probably deemed to have maybe too much control." On his personal reaction, "I feel a real sense of loss and hurt. It was all rather sudden. I didn't really get the chance to say a proper goodbye." On the Verstappens, he told the program he did not believe Max or Jos were responsible for his departure, placing the decision squarely on corporate leadership rather than the driver or his family. Two men gave completely contradictory accounts of the same events to millions of viewers within 6 weeks of each other. Marko said Horner lied about everything. Horner said Mintzlaff and Marko forced him out. Mintzlaff said it was about performance and moving forward. None of those accounts can be simultaneously complete. By April 2026, both men had secured their returns. Marko's came first, confirmed as ambassador for the Red Bull Ring and the Austrian Grand Prix, with attendance at the June 2026 race officially announced, bringing him back to the paddock through the venue most connected to Austrian racing identity. Horner's path back is more complex. As of April 2026, no confirmed role had been announced, but the Alpine stake discussions, the Aston Martin links, and the Audi speculation that emerged after that team's own sudden leadership change all pointed in the same direction.
He'll have learned from that, and that will have hurt him and ultimately motivated him. And, you forget the guy's only done a couple of seasons in Formula One. He's so relatively inexperienced.
The return clause in his settlement was not a formality. It was the whole point. Verstappen, by early 2026, confirmed he remained in contact with Marko after the retirement announcement. Before the 2026 season began, the two were still in regular conversation. Marko had called his connection to Verstappen the closest I've ever had with a driver, and the feeling, based on Verstappen's own actions through 2024 and 2025, ran in both directions. What Verstappen navigated across those 2 seasons, protecting Marko, staying diplomatic about Horner, losing a title amid internal chaos, receiving news of Marko's exit through a morning phone call, none of that reflects the experience of a driver who found this situation comfortable. The melancholy Marko described in that phone call belongs to a driver who understood exactly what was being lost. Red Bull Racing today runs under Laurent Mekies as team principal and CEO, with Mintzlaff's corporate oversight in place and Verstappen still in the driver's seat for 2026, confirmed by Marko himself in July 2025, while he was still technically in his advisory role. The public structure moved forward the moment Horner left, but the story that started in 2005 with a handshake over a new team has clearly not finished writing itself. Horner spent 20 years at the top of the sport, won 8 drivers' titles, and left with a return clause built into his severance because he plans to come back with more ownership than he had before. Marko spent 20 years identifying and protecting the drivers who defined the team, and now returns to the same paddock through a venue carrying Red Bull's name. Verstappen carries the number 1 into 2026, with neither of them in their old capacities beside him. When Horner and Marko share a paddock again, potentially as early as the Austrian Grand Prix in June 2026, the question of whether they walk past each other or toward each other will be answered in real time. That answer matters to Verstappen more than it does to anyone watching from outside. And based on everything he has said carefully, and everything he has chosen not to say at all, he already knows it. And that is everything for today, guys. If you enjoyed this one, dropping a like genuinely helps, and hitting subscribe means you will never miss what we cover next on Formula Girls. See you in the next one.